Before the Civil War broke out in 1861, the North and South had developed different ways of life. The North believed that slavery was wrong, and they were abolitionists. The North believed in a new start and a new beginning. Also in the North, they traveled by train. In the North, they had dirty cities and worked in factories. And in the South, it was a completely different. They were mostly for slavery. The South believed that if you were born poor, you would stay poor, and if you were born rich, you would stay rich. And in the South, they traveled on rivers. In the South, it was a clean, and slaves worked on farms. First, we'll start out with talking about the Fugitive Slave Act. This is where the Southerners could go to the North and go get their runaway slaves and bring them back to the South. And the North got very angry. So the North would drink a little and say, "What do you think you're doing with that slave?" The next thing to talk about is the Compromise of 1850. This is where California gets to choose to be a free or a slave state. Then New Mexico gets to choose if they wanted to be free or slave. But yet the North was still unsatisfied. On to the next subject, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which is where the North, led by Stephen Douglas, wanted to make a railroad across the country. But the North didn't want it to go through the South and give them benefits. So Douglas suggested turning some western territory into two states, like Kansas and Nebraska. Kansas and Nebraska got to choose to be free or slave. Last, let's talk about the raid on Harper's Ferry. This is when John Brown and his 5 sons tried to stop slavery and get all the slaves to rebel and join them in the fight against the South. But they just assumed, and they didn't, and the slaves ended up not joining them. And his 5 sons died, and he was hung. His punishment was death. Oh yeah, one more thing to know. When Abraham Lincoln was elected, this led to the South seceding because Abraham Lincoln was an abolitionist. The election of 1860 proved that the North and the South could no longer get along. 11 Southern states seceded from the Union and the Civil War began.